we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of the City Podcast. I am your host, the one and only, joined as always by my best friend in the whole entire world. He is Aaron, the Mukesiah Mukes. It is a beautiful October 19th morning here in the city. Episode 102 is about to kick off here. We're a little recovering, obviously, after our 3-hour extravaganza on Monday night, heading into Tuesday morning that we're all recovering from. But we've got a great show ahead of us. We are dropping our Week 7 power rankings. Aaron does his power rankings every week, and they always come with a lot of shakeups, a lot of controversy, a lot of chatter. We're going to get into that in just a few moments. Aaron, how goes it today?
Good. It's good. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. It's hump day. We're in the middle of the week. We got a football game tomorrow. We got some NBA action. I know we're not a basketball show anymore or talk basketball anymore, but NBA started. Hockey's underway. Baseball playoffs are going. This is I believe we did a draft when we were with. I think we were the Rough Cut still. We did a draft for best sports.
Yeah,
month.
we did it for Full Sail.
Yeah. So and the best sports month was October because I said it was, and here we are. And everybody loves it. We got the NBA, we got the NHL, we got the NFL, we got Major League Baseball playoffs. So if you're a fan of any sport, right now is the time. If you want to go deeper, you have NASCAR playoffs going on. You got everything. You got everything. There's not a sport that's not going on right now, and that's the beauty of October. It's the most wonderful time of the year. I think the kids say nowadays.
That's what the kids say nowadays. And it's funny. Thursday will be the 26th ever sports equinox, where we have all 4 of the major sports going on: baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. You get that on Thursday, which I mean, it's great. It's great. You can, hopefully, we have a better the way the Thursday night football games have been going on. Hopefully, the NFL can compete with playoff baseball, hockey rolling through, and the NBA rolling through, because those Thursday night games have been tough to watch. But we got the Saints and
Vinny.
Just roll over.
Doesn't matter what the game is. It doesn't matter
Football
what the game is.
I know.
The NFL is going to get their viewers.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But either way, we got Saints Cardinals on our Thursday night preview. We'll do that to cap the show today. But let's get into some morning headlines before we get into our power ranking.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the morning headlines here. We're going to kick things off with Aaron, your Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry Jones. Well, not really your Dallas Cowboys, really the owners in general saying, two owners in general, Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft, basically saying it into the owners meeting, saying, don't fuck with me. I assume this is obviously talking and referring to the Dan Snyder reports, saying that he said, hey, I've got dirt on you, basically. No, this isn't what. Okay, what is it about? What is it about, Aaron?
Jesus, I knew I should have added more detail. Where do you live, under a rock? What is it?
I do. I've been very busy.
Oh,
I probably should let you do the morning headlines today.
Okay, so this is nothing to do with Daniel Snyder. This was Jerry Jones telling Robert Kraft, don't fuck with me. They were having a heated exchange at these meetings because of the new contract that they want to give Roger Goodell. If people don't know, NFL owners voted on Tuesday 31-1 to permit their compensation committee to open negotiations on a new contract with Roger Goodell. But of course, 2 of the most powerful owners, that's Jerry Jones and that's Robert Kraft, engaged in a little argument. Basically, Kraft was okay with the majority saying strong support for opening up negotiations for that contract. And the only person that did not was Jerry Jones. And eventually they started arguing, and Jerry Jones basically told Robert Kraft directly to his face, don't fuck with me. That's my owner. The king of the NFL, despite what anybody thinks. You want to know who's really running the NFL? Jerry Jones is running the NFL because that man is a genius. Now, listen, it's just funny to me. I'm going to be real honest. Two old white dudes arguing over contract extensions for an owner, yelling, "Don't fuck with me." Yeah, going at it. I just wish I was a fly on the wall and saw that exchange because I would have been rolling.
You remember the show Celebrity Deathmatch? That's what I need right now. I need a Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft Celebrity Deathmatch. That's what I need right now. I need that in my life. All right. Well, let me see if I can do better on the next headline here. Former wide receiver he played for the Eagles, played for a lot of teams before. Deshaun Watson is signing a 1-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are a little banged up at the wide receiver position. Obviously, Rashad Bateman has been battling his injuries over the past 2 weeks. They're now bringing in Deshaun Jackson to possibly stretch the field a little bit for Lamar Jackson in that offense. He has not played in a little bit now, but he will come in. And what do you think his impact is going to be on this Ravens team? Do you think, if any, impact?
Irrelevant. It's irrelevant. I highly doubt that Deshaun Jackson is still fast enough to stretch the field in that way. I'm sure Devin Duvernay is probably faster at this point. He's a guy that could already stretch the field. This is just a veteran presence that is adding some some depth piece to a Baltimore Ravens obviously receiving core without Rashad Bateman. I think this speaks to more about Rashad Bateman and whether he's actually healthy enough to play. So good for Deshaun Jackson not wanting to hang it up just yet, but I don't think this has a huge impact on what they're going to do in Baltimore, being that he's 35, he's almost as old as I am, and I don't know that he has the juice left that he had when he was 25. I'm sure he's still fast. Yeah. I'm sure he's staying in good shape. But it's the NFL. It's a young man's sport, especially at the skill positions. And I think it's more just a veteran guy. They need some more depth. Bring him in there. I don't think it's a huge impact.
Yeah, I think the Baltimore Ravens are searching for is just a little bit of that next level on offense. I think they've been struggling not struggling as of late in terms of like it's still Lamar Jackson, it's still Mark Andrews, they're still doing their thing, but there's still that missing piece that they're searching to find. And I think being with Bateman has been huge for them. They're trying to find ways to say, okay, let's not just focus on Mark Andrews and focus on Lamar Jackson up front. The Ravens are trying to get something as a deep threat. And obviously Deshaun Jackson's a little bit older, but he does brings that speed. Hopefully he can bring that speed to stretch the field for the Ravens. That's where I think that this puts that team. One last news. This is about Dan Snyder, correct? This is about the Snides thing. Yes. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, comes out, makes a statement regarding the Snyder issues, saying there is merit to remove him as an owner. There has been a lot of chat. This is not even just like the headline isn't even just the Irsay comments. This should be the entire headline should just be the development Dan Snyder versus the world kind of story, because even after Irsay came out and said what he said, Dan Snyder comes out and basically says there was an ESPN article that was put out that was completely false. He's offended by it. It's ridiculous, the comments that were said. And then Irsay says what he says. This is going to get messy between Dan Snyder and really the entire NFL because it's him against the world at this point. Your thoughts on this news here?
He's got to go. Snyder's got to go. And I don't care that, whatever Snyder has done that hurt people's feelings. I don't care. I mean, I don't say I don't care. There's obviously been some misconduct in that organization that we should care about. The sexual allegations, the treating of women. And I'm not saying I don't care about those things. What I'm saying is that innocent or guilty on that front, that's not why I'm saying he should be removed one way or the other. That if that played a part, yes, he should be removed because of that. He should just be removed because he's a bad owner. He's just a bad owner of a football franchise.
That too.
They're irrelevant. They don't know. They're not doing anything to better the NFL. They're just bringing more controversy. He's not great at signing players. And then you have all the misconduct stuff. That just adds to it. It's just why would the NFL, who's been so adamant on protecting the brand, protecting the shield, allow this to continue to be a black eye or a stain on the league? Just if anything, just the general topic of conversation and discussion we have to have about Daniel Snyder and the Washington Commanders / football team / Redskins because they don't want to change their name because they offended people. It should be removed just because of that. So forget the success, forget the misconduct allegations, just everything in totality says that this guy just doesn't need to be an owner in the NFL.
If this was a player in the NFL that had this stuff going on, he would be out of the NFL, or there would be some type of conduct going where he is not playing football anymore and actively performing his duties. And that would be the case if Dan Snyder was a player, but obviously he's not. He's got some money. This is going to be an ongoing situation that's going to be in headlines for a little bit now. But that's our morning headlines. Let's get into our injury report.
It's time for that Week 7 injury report. There's always a lot of injuries leading into the week. It's Wednesday, so there's going to be a lot of people that are missing practice today, but we will keep our eye out for that. Let's start with Russell Wilson. Monday night, played against the Chargers. We know about the shoulder injury, and now he has an MRI on his hamstring scheduled. More bad news for the Denver Broncos, I guess. Who knows? He hasn't played that well, but now with the hamstring injury and the shoulder injury, you have to imagine that there's going to be some time where he's going to need to recover. Hopefully he can be back on the field. Russell doesn't miss games very often, and throughout his career, he's been a pretty tough guy. So I expect him to continue to try to play through it if he can. But that is definitely something to watch. Obviously, a lot of his effectiveness is on his elusiveness. Chris Olave came out and said he will play Thursday night. He had the concussion. I don't know that he's been cleared through concussion protocol, or that's his choice. But if it's up to him, it sounds like he'll play. So that's good news for Chris Olave and the Saints. They get a weapon back. But again, ultimately, it's going to come down to the doctor saying, hey, you're clear from concussion protocol and you can actually play. So that's good news for the Saints there. The Bucs' Logan Ryan on IR now with foot surgery. That injury came about as of last week. He is now heading to IR. He's going to go through foot surgery, and he will miss at least 4 weeks. They do expect him back at some point in time this season. Dustin Hopkins, the hero, Monday night's hero for the field goal kicker from Monday night, made 4 kicks with a hamstring injury, fell down every time he kicked it. Well, now he's going to miss 2 to 4 weeks. So we have to look for more kickers now. Again, we always have these teams that kind of cycle through kickers. The Chargers will be that newest team looking for one as we power through Week 7. There's a couple of updates that I wanted to give. DeAndre Swift had his bye week. He should be ready to go this week. Hopefully, that was kind of the plan all along. Dak Prescott, the plan is to practice today and practice in full and see where that hand feels after that. So we expect some more clarity as to whether he will actually go on Sunday. We do expect that to happen. And then Damian Harris practiced in a limited fashion. He should try to ramp it up again this week and see if he can get in there for Week 7. If not, it'll be a Ramondre Stevenson show once again for New England.
Ooh. These injury reports, they're just adding up, man. Just adding up. Everything's building. Everything's building and building. Good shit. Good stuff. That does it, though, for our injury report. We've got a power rankings show. We've got power rankings to talk about and to get into. We do it how we do it. 32 teams. We rank them all. Aaron takes the time to make this happen. We review and we talk biggest risers, biggest fallers in them. And let's just get right into it. 25 through 32 here with the Carolina Panthers now taking the new spot at 32 as the worst team in the NFL. The Bears bump up 1 to 31. Commanders at 30. Texans at 29. Steelers at 28. Lions fall 2 spots after bye week at 27. The Browns right here. This is the big one. 6 spots to 26. And the Broncos have now entered the 25 the 32 tier for the first time this season. They are at 25. Let's start things off with the biggest faller in this group here. It's the Cleveland Browns, now falling 6 spots, Aaron. Obviously they lost this past week against New England Patriots in tough fashion, but what are you seeing from the Browns that makes you think that they gotta fall this far?
It's not that they got them. They have to. They've just fallen. If you look at the beginning of the season, we had hope. We had hope for Cleveland that they were going to be able to maintain. They were started out 2-1. They blew that game against the Jets. It easily could have been 3-0. We thought they could maintain while Deshaun Watson was out. And then you look at the last 3 weeks, and they've fallen to 3 teams that they maybe should have won. 2 of those games close with the Chargers and the Falcons, but also teams that I felt like as a complete team, when we talk about what Cleveland had and what they were possibly Super Bowl contenders, if you just plug in Deshaun Watson instead of Jacoby Brissett, you have to find a way to win some of those games. And I know it's a tough Atlanta team, and they're not very talented, but they play tough. But Cleveland's supposed to be more talented, and they should win that game with Jacoby Brissett, who's a game manager, just like the guy on the Atlanta Falcons side, but has better talent around him. So they lose that game. They go and lose to the Chargers after running for 200-plus yards. The defense is unable to stop the run themselves. So you worry about that defense with all those names on it that can't perform. And then they get shellacked by a Bailey Zappi-led New England Patriots team, who we also don't think is a very good team in the end. And now you're staring at a 2-4 record, and you go play Baltimore, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Bucs the next 4 games. So it's about a little bit of foreshadowing, but understanding that this Cleveland team is not as good of a roster as people think they are. This is what happens every year. We're so quick to say, oh, great roster, they're going to be good. Sometimes it's just names. How many teams this year have been disappointing because of names? We talked about the Chargers. We talked about now Cleveland. We've said it for a number of years about Dallas with the great roster that they have all the time. Like, rosters are cute. That's cool. You got a great team on paper, but can you bring it all together? And Cleveland hasn't brought it all together. Despite having a backup quarterback, I expected more. And Jacoby Brissett has not been game managing. He's actually been costing them games. So,
yeah, that's how it's been. That's the difference between, like, it started off with the Browns. They were climbing our rankings and surprising us because of they were winning these games. And I think that we're seeing more and more that now when Nick Chubb is not as effective, this team cannot do anything. And it's interesting to me when you talk about, like, the names on paper. It's like this defense. There's so many names on paper, and you give up 38 points to Bailey Zappi. I'm not to disrespect the Zapster here, but I mean this is not okay with the amount of talent that you have on that defense that we talk about. We talk about Denzel Ward getting the bag and Myles Garrett being that dude, and you have Javen Clowney, and you draft these guys, and it's like, where is it? Like, eventually you can only live so long on the names that you bring in. You have to start doing things on the field. And sure, when Deshaun Watson comes back, we expect a difference from this team, but it's not looking like this team outside of what Watson could bring is going to be doing that much, especially when you're allowing 38 points to the New England Patriots offense. And
it's not going to matter if you're 2-9 or 3-8. Like, it's not going to matter what Deshaun Watson does.
Yeah, and we were hoping, and the Browns were hoping that you could have a Band-Aid with Watson or with Brissett being your quarterback, but that's not the case. One other name on this list here that Bailey brings up in the comments is the Commanders being last and them not being last. What went into the Panthers at 32 and the Commanders actually going to 30?
Not a whole lot. The Panthers don't have a quarterback. They don't have anybody. Despite what you may feel about the Washington Commanders, their roster is still their roster. And Taylor Heineke has played in this league. It's not a guy that we haven't seen before. Taylor Heineke has had good moments in this league. He's won some games. He's been in the playoffs before. Carolina has nothing at the quarterback position. Nothing. No Baker Mayfield. No Sam Darnold. No who's the guy they drafted? Matt Corral. No PJ Walker. Like, hey, PJ Walker died. Like, everybody's dead on the Carolina Panthers. They have no quarterback. Their defense is underachieved. They got rid of their head coach. Their offensive line is suspect. The only thing that they have, DJ Moore hasn't played well. The only thing that they have is Christian McCaffrey and J.C. Horn and Brian Burns. Like, a couple players on defense that are making plays, and Christian McCaffrey. And they just don't have anything. They look like the worst team They play like the worst team. They are the worst team. And that's saying a lot when you have the Bears there as well. But the Bears have Justin Fields. And at times, Justin Fields can do spectacular things. He's the quarterback. He touches the ball every play. Carolina doesn't have that. With Washington, they have a little bit more talent. I trust them a little bit more than I trust Carolina. And they've shown that they've won a game or so. Carolina just is awful. Carolina is a mess right now. They need to blow that whole thing up, start over, and try something else. 1-5 on the year. I had high hopes for them when they got Baker Mayfield. I tried, Bailey. I tried to give Baker Mayfield a chance, and look where we're at. This is where we're at.
Well, it's funny because you look at these the bottom quarter of this power rankings here, and you look at the quarterbacks of these teams. No quarterback in Carolina. Justin Fields, Taylor Heineke / Carson Wentz, Davis Mills, Kenny Pickett / Mitch Trubisky, Jared Goff, Jacoby Brissett, and a shitty Russell Wilson. Like it goes to like you are where you are because of your quarterback. Like your quarterback is a very big part, and that's not news to anybody, or it shouldn't be news to anybody, but that's how it's shaped up in this NFL nowadays, and that's how it is 25 through 32. Let's move on to 17 through 24 here. The Patriots moving up into this tier, moving into 24. Colts 23. Saints staying put at 22. The Raiders falling to 2 spots. Cardinals falling 5 spots. Here we go. Some of your biggest fallers and some of your biggest risers. Packers 9 spots to 19. Falcons up 3 spots to 18, and the Seahawks to 17, moving up 6 spots. There's 2 teams we got to talk about here, and I'm going to let you decide here. I'm going to let you decide on which one you want to start with first. Your biggest riser is the Seahawks in your power rankings. Your biggest faller in this power rankings is the Green Bay Packers. Which team stands out to you the most? Like which rise is the rise that stands out to you more, or the fall of the Packers that stands out to you more?
I mean, it has to be the Packers. That's the team that we saw as Super Bowl contenders. I mean, despite what you want to say about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers coming into this year, I don't think anybody really thought the loss of Devontae Adams would look like this. I think people still thought, hey, they'd have a chance to win the NFC North, even if you thought Minnesota might end up being a better team this year. You didn't think that the Packers were in jeopardy of not making the playoffs. And then watching them through 6 weeks, you're like, would it surprise you if the Packers didn't make the playoffs? No, because their offense is that bad. They can't score. They can't move the ball. They're turning the football over, which is uncharacteristic, and they're not getting turnovers. So this is a worrisome. This is the most worrisome team on the list in general. When you look at what we expect from an Aaron Rodgers team, and they went on that 3-game winning streak, but they beat the Bears, they beat the Bucks, who haven't played well, and they beat the Patriots barely. But then you lose back-to-back to the Giants and Jets. And yes, albeit they're better teams, the Giants and Jets are better teams this season. It doesn't look good for going forward when you have to play teams that are those middle tier teams as far as just giving you wins. Yeah, maybe you come this week and you beat the Commanders and it's a get right game, but you're on the road for the next 3 weeks and you also got to go play the Bills. Then you have a division matchup with the Lions. Should you win that game? Sure. So maybe you win 2 of the next 3 and we're rethinking how we feel about the Green Bay Packers, but then you play the Cowboys and the Titans and the Eagles. And then we're right back into having that conversation like, oh no, you just lost another 3 games in a row because you couldn't beat these good teams. And then the Bears come to town. So I feel like it's this up and down season for the Packers, and we're not used to seeing that from them. Matt LaFleur's won 13 games every year he's been there. They've only lost 3 games and 4 games respectively in the time that he's been there. So this is uncharted waters for Green Bay and this offense and what this team has been. And I think you see the frustration in Aaron Rodgers. I think you see the frustration in Matt LaFleur. Rodgers saying they need to simplify things. LaFleur saying, I don't know what that means. There's a little turmoil there that is not bad. I'm not saying they're fighting. I'm not saying it's just you can see it's not one cohesive unit. It's not a team. It's not they're not all on the same page. They're not working in unison. And for the Green Bay Packers, that is rare. Like despite not winning championships, every year we just count. Oh, Packers will be in the playoffs. Oh, the Packers are fine. We'll see if they can beat the Niners in the playoffs. And if they lose, they lose, or they win, they win. We get on them then. But the regular season Packers, we never question them. We never question where they're going to.
What was that last one? We never questioned where they're gonna end up. Is that what you said?
We never question where they're going to finish, and I think this year is the first time in a while where we can actually question where that finish is.
Yeah. It's just there's a big disconnect with this team right now, and like it's not. You talk about the solutions of it, and we talk about it in our previews and our recaps. What they need to do to get going, and it's really. I mean, this offense is so inefficient, and the disconnect is there between Aaron Rodgers, the play calling, the players that are there, your personnel. It's just a complete disconnect between the Packers as a whole and really winning football games. So they do fall 9 spots here as a team that was in the top 8, I believe, to start the season. Now really farther down on the list. The other side of this coin is the riser on your 17 through 24, and it's the Seattle Seahawks jumping up 6 spots now to 17. The Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks moving up those 6 spots. What have you seen from them that's making you believe, okay, this team is a borderline playoff team at this point?
Well, the offense has looked a lot better than we gave it credit for. And we knew they had the weapons with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And you say, okay. And then you had some excitement over Rashad Penny and what he was able to do last year. And you go draft a Kenneth Walker, who's stepped up over the last couple of weeks. So you expect big things from him. But you always question Geno Smith. And now you look at an offense that's, 8th in the league in scoring, and which nobody, if I told you week 1, hey man, Seattle's going to be the eighth in points per game, you'd have been like, you're smoking crack. You're on something with Geno Smith and Drew Lock as your quarterback options. The offense has been good. And Pete Carroll said he felt confident in this offense and that he thought they were a good team. And lo and behold, Pete Carroll was right. They're averaging 125 yards game on the ground. Geno's throwing the ball, flinging the rock. Like they're in the top half of the league in passing yards per game and rushing yards per game. They just find ways to get it done. And it's not like these are hollow points. These aren't just, Kirk Cousins stats in the past where you're playing from behind all the time and you have to get those numbers in order to just come back and people are playing soft defense. Like they're winning games. They're ahead in these games and they're still able to move the ball. They're ahead and they're not taking their foot off the gas. They're continuing to try to score. And even when they've struggled at times to score those points, they've moved the ball, gotten to field goal range, and put points on the board. And I think that's the biggest thing with Seattle. I didn't know how much they were going to be able to score. And then you're one of the top scoring teams in the league. Like even that week 1, we questioned it. You won 17-16, but we're like, that offense, they only scored 17 points. Denver didn't play well. But then you score 7 points. And since then, it's been 23, 48, 32, and 19 against the Cardinals, but your defense stepped up. So they've been able to score points. Their defense has played well when they needed to. And you sit at 500, and that's a win for Seattle. So, you could look at it and say, they're just 3-3. Well, half the league is 3-3. And this is a team we didn't expect to be here. Pete Carroll has done an excellent job building this roster and getting them to buy in to what he believes in. And that's just that excitement. They're young and they're winning games they shouldn't, and they're in games that they shouldn't be in. And they continue to rise because they're playing good football. Could change, but right now they're playing good football.
Yeah. And you got to give credit where the credit is due. And I think that this is a team that, like, we talked about it before, that like when you're with your quarterback position, like your Carson Wentz, your Baker Mayfield, those type of guys that, and then even Jacoby Brissett, who lately, these are guys that are trying to win you those games. These are guys that are trying to play outside of their skill set, and it costs you games. Pete Carroll is not asking that from Geno Smith. That's not what's being asked of from this offense. His team as a whole is not being asked to do anything that's outside of their skill set. They're playing to what their strengths are. They know what their weaknesses are. They're not putting those on full display. They're like you said, they're at the top half of the league in a lot of categories that are coming as a surprise to a lot of us. And they're just playing simple football, and it's the right way to play and right way to win these games. For Seattle, this is a team though that we had losing a lot of games this season. They're now at a 500 team. I'm going to play this game with you, Aaron. First time on this show. What do you think they're like when you look at their schedule? What do you think they end up being? Where like these games, the next games that they have what are we in? So they have the Chargers, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Bucks, then their bye. Like, could this team make the playoffs?
I'll tell you. Yeah, they could. I'll tell you this. They could also. I picked them to win 4 games at the end of the season. They could also have 4 wins at the end of the season.
That's fair.
That's
fair.
I mean, there's no game. There's no game on their schedule. Their remaining schedule outside of Carolina, where I look at and I say, oh yeah, they're handling business. The Chargers, could they beat them? Sure, but are they?
Yeah.
I don't know. The Giants, the Cardinals again. They maybe the Cardinals, but D-Hop's back and it's in Arizona. Never know. Then you get the Bucks, Raiders, Rams. Good luck. Those are going to be tough games.
Yeah.
Then you get Carolina. Then you get the Niners, Chiefs, Jets, Rams. This is the type of team, honestly, I don't know what I have at 17, 16.
Yeah, 17.
The Seahawks probably never get higher than maybe it's love what's going on, and they could be a Cinderella story. Maybe they go 8-9 or 9-8 and shock the world and go 500. That's cool. Like I can see that happening, but I can also see them only winning 1 or 2 more games this year, and we wouldn't think twice about it. We'd be like, oh yeah, that's kind of who we thought they were at the beginning of the season, but they were fighting. They played tough. The games are going to be closer. They're not a blowout now. Like I don't look at those other teams and think they're just going to come in and blow out Seattle either. So do they have winnable games on that schedule? Yes. Am I going to pick them in those games?
Probably not.
Probably not. I still have questions about the defense, and Gino's going to have to show me as the season moves throughout, because I as much as I've praised him now for over the past couple of weeks for playing well, there's still that Gino in the back of my head. Like, hey, I've seen this guy before.
Well,
when it's going to drop, and you never know.
It's the same thing with what happened with Jacoby Brissett. They started off great, and we're like, okay, they're doing what they need to do to win, but eventually you are who you are. And it's not to say the Seattle Seahawks can't be above 500 team and pull off upsets, but it's just not. I mean, you look at their 3 wins right now. They beat Arizona, they beat who else did they beat? They beat Arizona, Denver. They beat Atlanta, and they beat Denver. So
those
it's like
good teams.
Yeah, so but they're wins, and it's not. We're not taking anything away from them. They do deserve to be right there at that 17 spot. One last look at your 17 through 24 here. Colts move up the 5 spots after beating the Jaguars, and the Cardinals move down 5 spots after losing to those Seattle Seahawks. Are those 2 teams you want to discuss, or are those notable moves, or you want to move on to your 11?
It really is the middle tier of this power rankings. I mean, even beyond the middle tier, when you get really outside that top, I don't know, 15, 14, 13, where I think you're playoff teams right now, they're all the same. They all can win games and they all could lose games. They're all like blah. They're all 2-4, 3-3, 4, 4-2. Like they're all right there record wise. And then you watch them play and you're like, this team could beat a good team and then lose to a bad team. Nobody's really been very consistent in the NFL outside of a few teams. And I think that's really what's most telling. A lot of times we have top heavy. Like you think back to just last year, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Rams, the Packers, the Cowboys. Like they all quick division, the Titans. Those were all good football teams at the beginning. Like, it wasn't like we were questioning anything about them. That was, 6, 7 teams I just named. You go look at our top 7 now, and we're like, I can find 3, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, like maybe the Vikings you throw there. Like, there's some teams that are – it's just more questions about teams this year, I think. Like we talked about the parity in the league before, and I think that's just what it speaks to, is that these good teams aren't really complete. They're not at the upper echelon like we are used to seeing, but there's more middle of the road teams where anything can happen this year. And I think that's an interesting kind of storyline, because if you get anything from 7, 8, maybe even 6 or 5, all the way to 25, we're not shocked if they win a game. We're not, whether it's against a good team or a bad team.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about just the fact that the change that we've seen. I mean, you look at this 17 through 24, none of these, I mean, the Saints were at 6 to start the season. The Seattle Seahawks were at 29 to start the season, or 30 to start the season, I should say. The Falcons were the worst team in the league at 32. Like, Packers were super hot. Like, there's so much change, and it's just so much fluctuating within all those teams. But then there's just the top dogs that are just staying put, and it's consistent throughout the power rankings. Let's go into 9 through 16 here, though. The Jaguars stay put at 16. The Dolphins move up 2 spots to 15. The Jets 4 spots to 14. The Rams at 13. The Titans at 12. The Chargers at 11, and the Bucks at 10, and the Bengals there at 9. I believe we lost about three or four subscribers after that Tuesday show after we talked about the Bengals. Well, here you go, Bengals. They're at number 9. Obviously, you're not throwing them a bone here. They deserve to be moved up 2 spots. But let's start off things with the Jets, though. Let's start off with the Jets. They move up 4 spots. This has been a team that, you talk about surprises, they've been surprising everyone. Your thoughts on the Jets this season?
Yeah, they've been able to score points, and we knew that Robert Saleh would have this defense. Like, we knew that. I don't think there was ever a doubt, despite how bad they were last year. Like, I don't think there was ever a doubt that Robert Saleh would get this defense right. You draft Sauce Gardner. Look at what he's been able to do as a lockdown corner. You get some help up front. I know Jermaine Johnson's been out, but they've had some depth pieces there. They've been able to play well defensively because Robert Saleh is a defensive-minded coach. We wondered where they'd be able to score. So they go surround Zach Wilson with a bunch of weapons. They start the season with him out. Joe Flacco's on the field. But they've been able to score. No matter how it's been done, it ain't Zach Wilson throwing for 300 yards. But right behind Seattle as far as points per game, it's the New York Jets, which is crazy. You look at points per game, you have the Raiders, the Browns, the Falcons, the Seahawks, and the Jets in that group. And you're like, ew, what is going on in the NFL? But they're there. And so I don't think it's a fluke. I think it's a culture build that Robert Saleh has instilled in that locker room, and it's paying dividends. It's showing that it's coming true. It's who the Jets want to be. And I think when you have a coach with a mindset like that and his ability to coach and get the best out of his players, you're going to see success. And now you have the Jets at 4-2 for the first time in forever. And it's not a fluky 4-2. And I want to, like, the difference when we talk about, like, the fluky teams that win games. Like, we thought the Giants were fluky, and now we're like, well, maybe they're not fluky. But the Jets are not a fluky team. It's not like they played week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens, and I watched that game, and at the end it looked like it was a blowout. It was 24-9. But when you watch the game, it was like, dude, that they gave Baltimore everything they could handle, and Baltimore was a, quote, Super Bowl team at the time.
With Joe Flacco,
they lose with Joe Flacco at quarterback. They lose to the Bengals with Joe Flacco at quarterback. They make the comeback against the Browns. They beat the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Packers 3 straight in convincing fashion, mind you. Not like in Pittsburgh, late drive, Zach Wilson gets it done. Goes to at home against Miami, dominates. Comes back and goes to Green Bay, Lambeau Field, where Aaron Rodgers never loses. Sloppy conditions, and they put it on the Packers. And it's not like fluky wins. It's actual legit football wins, and you start looking at them a little bit differently now. And sitting at 4-2, that it's funny, isn't it, how certain divisions that are looked as bad for so long, how 1 year can change. Like, you look at the AFC East now, nobody thought, like, maybe outside of Miami when they got Tyreek Hill and Buffalo obviously being the best team in football. But you're like, oh, the Jets and the Patriots didn't look that good. You're like, eh. And now you look at them and they're all sitting at 500 or above. And then you go over to the NFC East and you look at that division and you're like, outside of Washington, it's arguably the best division in football. And all we could talk about was the AFC West and the NFC West. And those divisions, you're like, they're not very good. Like, it's funny how 6 weeks can change things. And the Jets have come a long way. So they deserve to keep rising in the power rankings.
Yeah, I think with the Jets, it's a similar thing to what I talk about with the Seahawks. It's like they're not playing above what they are. Like, they're not playing, or they're not to say that they're not playing above what they are. They're not playing outside of what their skill sets are. I mean, they're slowly progressing with Zach Wilson. They're not trying to make him say, okay, Zach Wilson, you need to throw the ball 40 times a game and go out there and win us a football game. They're simplifying things. And that's what's been the key for the Jets to me, is they're letting Breece Hall carry the rock and be able to lead this offense. Their defense has been stepping up. They've been letting their defense obviously do their damn thing with Sauce Gardner and what they have over there. I mean, this is a team that's, again, not playing above their – is that the proper term? Not playing above their means. Like, this is a team that knows what they are. They're playing to their skill set, and they're looking good. It's not a overcomplicated system here. That's what it is with the Jets, I think.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure if that's the way to word it, but yeah, sure.
Something along those lines. Those lines. The Jets, though, doing good, playing good football. They belong where they are in your power rankings here. Now, there's some teams in the rest of this group here that I want to bring up. The Chargers have not moved far out of their spot in this middle of the pack NFL. They started the season off pretty much right around the same spot. The Chargers in our early power rankings were 11. They are at 11. There's not much changing going on with them. Then you got the Rams. They've been there for a little bit now. They've been there for 2 weeks straight in this area. The Titans are now in this area a lot. Which team in this middle group kind of stands out to you the most as like, okay, they can do something here? Like they're here, but they have a chance to really not surprise people, but win it all at the end of the day.
Well, none of the 3 teams that you mentioned. The Chargers, the Titans, and the Rams are all meh. They're there because they are meh, and I don't think they get better, and I don't think they get worse. They're going to win enough games because they're talented, but they're not going to win against the good teams in the playoffs when it matters because they have gaping deficiencies. The Rams have a gaping hole on the offensive line. The Chargers have a gaping hole on the offensive line, and the Titans just don't have enough playmakers to win it all. So none of those teams have a chance to win it all. There's 2 teams on this list that do have a chance to win it all. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and it's the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's why they're at 10-9-10. Because the Cincinnati Bengals, if everything goes right like last year, and they can get the offensive line to perform the way it needs to perform, they have the skill set, the roster, the ability to get to the Super Bowl and now win it. Obviously, getting there last year, they have the ability to get there. We've seen that. But it has to come together again. So do they have the ability? Yes. Tampa Bay has the GOAT. They always have the ability. I don't care who else is around. Until he retires, Tom Brady has a chance to win a Super Bowl. So I don't care how bad they're playing. Until they're eliminated from the playoffs, I don't care. I might move them up and down in my power rankings all day long, but I'm telling you the same thing every week. Tampa Bay has a chance to win the Super Bowl every year because they have Tom Brady, and he always finds a way. I'm not saying they are going to win it. I'm not picking them. I don't have them as the best team in the NFC, but I'm also never counting them out. So those 2 teams, the sleeper team, I guess you could say, would be the Miami Dolphins if Tua comes back healthy and can stay healthy. Because I do think they have the requisite weapons. I do think that defense is better than what they've been playing. When you have a Xavier Howard and Byron Jones healthy, and you add a Javon Holland back there, and you get that defense right and that secondary right, I think that's a difference maker on the offensive side of the football, and I think they're a much better team with Tua at quarterback, and I think it's been proven now. So if he can stay healthy, which I worry about, I'm not going to lie. With a concussion like that, one hit could put Tua out again. And you could be in the same situation you were before, and they're obviously not very good with their backups. So, but if I had to pick a surprise team there, it would be the Dolphins.
Okay. All right. Let's dive into your top 8 here. No changes up at the top. Chiefs number 1, Bills number 2. We do have changes everywhere else with 4 new teams. Sid, I've been having the theme of bringing up our OG power rankings here from the preseason. There's 4 new teams. At this point, we're done with what happened last year. We're done with what's in preseason. This is all new. Niners at 8, Giants at 7, Vikings at 6, Ravens at 5, Cowboys at 4, Eagles at 3, and then the top 2 stay the same in the Chiefs and the Bills. Let's start things off.
I switched the Bills and Chiefs.
You did not.
Those should have been switched.
Unless I was looking at the wrong rankings. If those should have been switched, I will get them switched. Let's talk about the Giants.
Yeah, you got it wrong. The Bills are number 1.
Okay,
so the Bills I did switch it.
Okay.
And I sent you the switched one.
I will get that changed right away. The Giants, though, they moved up to 7. Let's talk about them for a little bit. This team is obviously 5-1. They've been very impressive. Are we starting to buy into what the Giants are doing?
Well, of course. Look at where I put them in my power rankings. You know what? Mike Tuck would be disappointed in you for asking me that closed question. Yes, we are. That's your answer.
I'm not interviewing you.
No.
I'm not interviewing you.
Listen. We have to buy into the Giants. They're winning. They're 5-1. How they're getting it done is not conventional. They've had some good fortune, but they're winning, and winning matters. And when you look at those, like I said, those other teams, the Giants' defense is talented. The Giants' offense has talent. We've questioned Daniel Jones. And the fact of the matter is Daniel Jones is not playing like Daniel Jones of 2019 or 2020 or 2021. He's playing like Daniel Jones under Brian Daboll of 2022. And that seems to be a guy that at least is confident and knows what he's doing and doesn't look like the turd or the guy that we questioned whether he would be able to play quarterback in the NFL. He's only thrown 2 picks this year, which is an upgrade. Now, he hasn't thrown a lot of touchdowns, but he's only thrown 2 picks. He still has a tendency to fumble the football a little bit, but it's not as much as it used to be. And that's really all it's been about. Daniel Jones doesn't turn the ball over. They have a lot more weapons. They can win some games. And that's what they've done. They've played within themselves. Brian Daboll has Daniel Jones feeling confident. They're using his legs. And that defense, as I mentioned before, was always going to be good. They were good last year. They were good the year before. The numbers didn't always say that. And now you don't have that. So you have a defense that's talented. You have a defense that's really good and well coached. And you couple that with an offense that's not turning the football over. It's a recipe for success in the NFL. And they've won games because of it. They've beat good opponents. This is not no more we're not sure who they've played. We're not sure if they've really been tested. Well, they just got tested. They just played the Baltimore Ravens, who we think is a very good team. They beat them. They played the Green Bay Packers, who we thought was a good team. They beat them. They played the Tennessee Titans week 1 in Tennessee, a team that's now ranked 12th. Like, they're better than what I had them at that point in time. They beat them, and they barely lost to the Dallas Cowboys, albeit with the second tier quarterback, but it still was the Dallas Cowboys, and they were close. And so, and you see where I have the Cowboys ranked now that Dak Prescott's coming back. So the Jaguars, the Seahawks, and the Texans are the next 3 games. Then the Lions, 4 games. Could the Giants win all 4 of those games and be 9-1? Yeah, they could. They could be 9-1 before wild. They go to Dallas. And that in itself, saying that, those words coming out of my mouth, tells me that they belong in the top 8.
That's wild to think that the Giants could be 9-1. That's impressive. They've got good things going. Brian Daboll is doing a good job over there with the Giants. The Vikings, though, move up 2 spots. They have been in the top 8 for now back-to-back weeks. They are a 5-1 team. I guess really we should be talking about the Cowboys at 4 here. That's the biggest thing here. Talking about the Cowboys now. After the loss against the Eagles, this is this has a lot to do with Dak Prescott, right? Coming back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, the power rankings are obviously projecting forward. Like, these are the teams that I feel like are the best in the league. But when I look at that, when I ranked the top 4, this is all I did. I said, okay, the Bills beat the Chiefs. I'm going to give them their credit. They move above. That's just simple, right? Because I think those are the 2 best teams in football, just hands down. Philadelphia is undefeated. I have to give them their credit. They're undefeated. Despite how they've won or who they've beat, Dallas backup, doesn't matter. Cowboys fans don't get to make that excuse. You lost. The Philly beat you. And they're undefeated. They have not lost. They have not fallen. They have not any blemish on their record. So they are the next best team in the NFL. After that, can I name a team that I'm taking over the Dallas Cowboys? I can. Can I, with Dak Prescott healthy? The defense of the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion, is the best in the NFL right now. The best. And that includes Buffalo's. I get Buffalo's is aided by an offense that's so damn good. Their defense can at times look like it has holes, but not really look like it has holes because their offense is so damn good. And watch the Dallas Cowboys play. And I know this is the worst part. I don't like talking about the Cowboys when I'm wearing my Cowboys sweater because I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. But I am also a very realistic fan. I don't know the last time that I've seen a pass rush like the Dallas Cowboys. Like, watch the game. It's like a jailbreak. Every single snap, even against the Eagles, it was like jailbreak. Jalen Hurts got to get rid of the ball. jailbreak, got to get rid of the ball. Like there's no time for the quarterback to throw. When you have a pass rush like that, there are some special things you can do in this league. It did not work out because they cannot stop the run. They do struggle stopping the run because they're giving up the running game. And Philly, when they needed it most, said, you know what? We know that. We're going to run it. We're going to run it. We're going to run it. And the Cowboys are okay with that. They're okay with bending, and not giving up big plays in the passing game. The difference in why they were unsuccessful against Philly was they couldn't rely on their offense to force Philly to get into those passing situations. And with Dak Prescott, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that's the case. I love that Cooper Rush played well, but Dak Prescott is going to make this offense better. And with that offense and a defense like that, I'm sorry, Minnesota, no. The 49ers, no. The Giants, no. We've already beaten the Giants with a backup. Baltimore, we've seen what you do when you get pass rush on Lamar Jackson if you can contain him. Name a team that is more complete with their starting quarterback right now than the Dallas Cowboys outside of those top three teams. I cannot. Am I willing to admit, could they still lose because they find ways to lose? Absolutely. But from a power ranking perspective, I don't see any of those teams. They all have major flaws in their defense or in their offense. And I don't think Dallas has a major flaw. The flaw we thought about was their offensive line, who's played absolutely great, and their defense, which they're great. Like their defense is really, really good. So that's the only, you look at those four teams, they don't have major flaws. They don't have major flaws. Everybody else I can point to you has a major flaw on their roster or on their team.
I have no problem with the Cowboys being where they are at 4. I think you're right with the fact that there's no one. If everything is firing on all cylinders, the Cowboys, I think that there's no one behind them is as good as them. My biggest concern is just when, and we've talked about this before, when your starter comes in, is there going to be changes the way this offense is run and the way things are going? I mean, go back to that week 1 performance against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, the Bucs have a fantastic defense, but the Cowboys offense didn't look that great. So I just worry about that. What we've said before or what I have said before with your game plan is changing when you have depending on the quarterback that is there under center. It's a simple game for Cooper Rush. It's a very simple game. Do they overcomplicate things when Dak Prescott comes back? Do they say, okay, it's Dak, let's do a little bit more and let's see what we can do and push the edge?
I mean, this is not an offense. I mean, we've seen that offense before, though. We've seen that offense be number 1, running at that style.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's an excuse. Like, if they decide that they want Dak to throw the ball 35, 40 times, still not an excuse. They've been the number 1 offense in the NFL with that formula. They went 12 and 5 last year with that formula. We're the number 1 offense in the NFL. So to me, the coaching, I agree with you that there is a coaching point that is important. I don't think the coaching point is in the regular season. I think that coaching point becomes in the playoffs. So when we're talking about like power rankings right now, if they do decide to come back and throw the ball 40 times with Dak Prescott, I probably won't come on here and say much because I think they'll be successful doing it in the regular season. When it gets to the playoffs, now are you being outcoached by some of these defensive coordinators and not being able to scheme up the right plays at the right time in those moments? That I do worry about. I've always worried about that with Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore. That doesn't change. But when he talks about regular season power rankings, whether they want to run it or whether they want to throw it, Dallas's offense is good enough to win either way. And I'm okay. That's why I said I'm okay with that, where everybody else is kind of limited. You can figure out, like, if we stop this, we win the game. I don't know that you can do that with Dallas. I think if you stop the pass, their run game can kill you. If you stop the run, Dak can beat you, and the defense can beat you by themselves. We've seen it the first part of the season. So I hear what you're saying with the coaching point. I do think that's more applicable as we head to the end of the season and in the postseason than, the Detroit Lion game or the Chicago Bear game that they got coming up.
Yeah, no, and that's without how it is when you're talking about the top 4 teams that you have in here. At this point, it's now starting to talk about playoffs. It's not talking about what they're doing in the regular season, and that's again, like you said, it was my concern. Again, in that Bucs game for the Cowboys, Dak was 14 of 29, 134 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. And that offense only scored 3 points again. And again, this is against a Bucs team when their defense was at the top of their game. Like that was peak Bucs defense this season. Obviously, it has not been great the past few weeks for them. But again, it's the Cowboys. It's that offense that I am interested. I'll say the cliche again. I'm interested to see what this offense looks like now with Dak Prescott, whether it's good, whether it's bad. You want to note, do you have a little nugget that you want to drop for your change up at the top with the Bills and the Chiefs, or is it as easy as the Bills beat the Chiefs last week? That's how it is.
No, the Bills won a game. They beat the Chiefs. That was a good win. It goes a long way in home field advantage. They needed it. The Bills, I said at the beginning of the season, Bills were the best team in football, even over my Chiefs. And I claim it. Yeah, I love the Chiefs. I root for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are the Super Bowl winner this year. But right now, it's week 7, and the Bills got them, as they did last year at this time. And they deserve to be number 1. They're a very, very good football team. It's not – nothing shocks me with the Buffalo Bills anymore. Like, they need to be recognized as one of the best teams in the NFL. It really just comes down to the postseason. Those two teams are fighting for they're fighting for conversational topics during the regular season. Like nobody's like, no, we're not. When we start to question them or we say something negative about one of those teams, it has nothing to do with where we think they're going to finish at the end of the year. It's just so we can talk about those teams, because if we don't, then what do we say? Oh, they're good. Yeah. And we move on and we don't get to talk about the best players in the world. So, but no, the Bills are where they're at. The Chiefs are where they're at. They're both going to be there. It's probably the AFC title game. Yeah. Hopefully this year, hopefully it doesn't end up being where one of them's a 3 seed, because that would suck. And then they have to play each other or some crazy, the division
something unfortunate unfortunate for sure. They are the 2 best teams in the NFL, and you have them right there, 1 and 2, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. That does it for our power rankings. If you didn't like what you saw, let us know in the comments. Let us know if your team is too low, too high, or too bad. It's now time to go inside the matchup. It's time to preview the Thursday night matchup between the New Orleans Saints and the Arizona Cardinals. It has not been great for our Thursday night matchups. This has been bad game after low-scoring game after low-scoring game after low-scoring game. Thursday night football games are combining for 36 points per game this season combined. That's the lowest scoring Thursday night game since 2006 when it first debuted. We've got the Cardinals, though. We've got the Saints. The Cardinals are 2-point favorites here with an over-under of 44.5 points. What's one storyline you're watching for tomorrow, Aaron, between these two teams? Oof, what a terrible time to
well, it's the obvious one. It's what?
You were frozen, and I soloed you right as frozen mode appeared.
Well, it's an obvious one. D-Hop's back, baby. D-Hop is back for the Arizona Cardinals. He looks ready to go. He said he's playing. He's coming out. I expect a huge game for DeAndre Hopkins. I expect I'm talking 12 catches, 180 yards, and 4 touchdowns. No, I do expect a really big game from him. Obviously not that much. That's a little extreme, but I do think he's going to come back and improve once again why he's one of the best receivers in football. But I think it's the quarterback controversy that's in New Orleans. Is it Dalton or is it Winston? Winston was, quote, healthy last week. I know he's still dealing with the broken back, but he was active and he did not play. It was Andy Dalton. And I'll be honest, the offense hasn't looked bad under Andy Dalton, but they haven't necessarily looked like they're winning very many games either with either one of them. So, but I do like the fact that Alvin Kamara has been very productive. I think they're getting back to what their offense is. Get the ball to Alvin Kamara. Get the ball to Alvin Kamara. And when you get the ball to Alvin Kamara, it opens up other things for other guys. And I think that's what the Saints need to continue to do in order to have a chance to win in this game. The Cardinals are going to lean on their defense to stop Alvin Kamara. Focus on getting the ball to Alvin Kamara so they can say, okay, that's what they're trying to do. And then you get big play to Chris Olave. Then you get a big play to Traquan Smith. Throw in some Taysom Hill at the goal line, and you can score some points. The Saints both these teams have underachieved this year, not doing what we expected them to do. But the Saints have been able to put up some points as of late. And I think that they're trending in the right direction. I thought they could have pulled that game out last week. I thought they should have beat the Bengals. They did not. I think the same applies here. I think that they can beat the Cardinals at home, but they're going to have to make sure that they get their playmaker the ball and Alvin Kamara.
3 straight games for the Saints defense, allowing 28 plus points. This Cardinals offense only scored 9 last week against the Seattle Seahawks offense. Is this a game that, like, we know what the Saints defense can be? They have not been that. Is this how big of a test is this for the Arizona Cardinals offense?
I mean, it's still a test. The Saints have a good defense. A lot of people, like you just said, you threw out the thing I hate the most is they just, I mean, not you didn't do this, but this is what people do. They just see, they've given up 28 points the last 3 games, and it must be bad. And again, a lot of that has been on their offense. A lot of that has been on their inability to do things offensively. That's continuously had their defense on the field. And their defense hasn't played great, but they're not as poor as giving up 39 points to a team or to the Seahawks, or as poor as just getting destroyed by the Vikings offense, because that game was close for most of the game, or even the 30 points the Bengals got against them. It's still going to be a tough matchup for the Cardinals, despite the points per game that the New Orleans Saints has given up. They have a lot of talent on that defense. Now, they have underachieved, but at any point in time, they can get right back to where they were. And the thing is, the Saints don't have an easy path. Like, their path to winning in this league, they're going to have to fight every game. It's not like they have easy games that they can just say, oh, man, we just get a break. Like, I looked at their schedule, I think, was it Sunday, Saturday? And they don't have an easy game on their schedule. Like, the easy game on their schedule came from the Carolina Panthers, which they lost. Like, the rest of the season, they do not have one easy game, I don't think, until week 18. Until the very last week of the season is the game that's, quote, easy. They are going to have to find a way to beat good team. There it is. I just saw, okay, there's the schedule. And you look at Cleveland, you're like, oh, nope, Deshaun Watson's back. You look at Atlanta, and you're like, well, Atlanta's better than we thought. And outside of that, there's no easy games there. So I think they're going to continue to struggle, but they're going to have to find ways to win games like this. Thursday night, Arizona, they're a team that's struggling. Next week against the Raiders, they're a team that's struggling. Those are games you can get right, and maybe you get things rolling, and then you rattle off 3 out of 4, and then you find yourself right back in the playoff hunt, and maybe you get some confidence that defense starts playing well. But it starts Thursday night. I will be honest. They lose Thursday night, I think the Saints season is over. We are at that point now where 1-4, 2-5 football team, or 2-4, or 1-4 and 2-4 football teams start losing games, and I don't think they can catch up, especially certain teams. And I think the Saints are one of those teams. If the Saints lose on Thursday night, I think the Saints season is over. I think they are no longer in playoff contention.
Yeah, that's where they start. They were 6th at the start of the season in our power rankings. This is a team that has definitely been disappointing, and I do think they lose this game. I'll take the Cardinals here. With DeAndre Hopkins coming back, they're a much better team with DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup, averaging much more points. I have the stat here. I'm just trying to get to it. With DeAndre Hopkins in the line, when DeAndre Hopkins plays, they're averaging 27 points per game. When he does not play, they're only averaging 19 points per game. I think that matters. I think that is an important stat. I think they do much better with him. Give me the Cardinals here, 24-21 Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm on the other side. I don't think it matters that D-Hop is back. I think DeAndre Hopkins has a great game, and the Cardinals still lose because I don't think the Cardinals are very good. They're trying to be. They have the pieces, but I don't care that they scored 28 points a game last year at the beginning of the year with DeAndre Hopkins since he's been there. He hasn't played in a year. The offense is not the same. They don't have James Conner. It's probably going to be Eno Benjamin again. Cliff Kingsbury seems to be clueless offensively. I am going to take the Saints here in a very close, low-scoring game. I think it's 20-17, the Saints. I don't think this Cardinals offense is very good. D-Hop's great, but you scored 9 points. 9 fucking points to the Seahawks. D-Hop's good for maybe 10 more. Now it's still 19. So I'll take the Saints here 20-17.
Yep. That does it for our Thursday night preview. We'll have a full slate of NFC games tomorrow that we're going to talk about and discuss for week 7. We've given you our power rankings as well. Go check that out on YouTube at the Sac City Pod. Again, we'll be back again live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, bringing you all the previews for the week 7 action. And we just talked about the Thursday night game. We will be also doing our DFS plays for this and talking about our teams that we select tomorrow, live at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on YouTube at the Sac City Pod. Until then, for my best friend Aaron Mukes, I am me.
I need to change my pick.
Okay, go ahead. What do you got?
I'm just playing.
I was about to say, I'll pull up the graphic again. We'll just do this.
I mean, I probably should. Big loss for the Saints, who will not play Thursday night. Andres Pete is not playing. It's another offensive lineman. That's a huge loss for them, but I'll stay with the Saints. It's not okay. A good look, though. Not a good look.
Not good. Not good for the New Orleans Saints, a very banged-up team. We'll talk about that game a little bit more tomorrow. Until then, though, for my best friend Aaron Mukes, I am me. We will see you then.
Peace out. Ethan.
We know we are a much better team.